Yoo-hoo, it's Luhu, and I'm Cyndy Young, the designer behind Luhu Stitches, and this is Flosstube in 15. That is 15 minutes. So, where did I put it? Here it is. Here's my timer. Setting it for actually 14, so we get a minute of warning. And I'm talking about threads today. Floss, threads, whatever you want to call it. I'm hopefully going to talk a little bit about why designers might choose to use an overdyed floss as opposed to DMC, and why not DMC sometimes, or why do I prefer DMC sometimes and not an overdyed floss. Anyway, we'll get into all of that. I'm also going to talk about white thread and black thread and what you can use to replace DMC 310 and DMC white. Yay! Okay, so let's get started, and I'm going to just talk about DMC for a second. And as you can see, hopefully you can see, I've got my collection of DMC here. I'm not going to move the camera, but I'm hoping you can see. I have one of these beautiful accordion type sewing boxes. They're wooden. They open up like this and they close like this. I don't know if you can see that. There we go. Like that. I just have half of it closed, and it stands up, and it's kind of like an end table. And in fact, I use mine closed most of the time, unless I'm looking for some threads. Today, however, I have it open because I want to talk to you about DMC. So most of this is filled up with DMC. I can't even, well, maybe I can kind of show you the whole other side without making you nauseated. There you go. Kind of get an idea. I've been collecting DMC for almost 30 years now, and I've inherited DMC from my mom and from my mother-in-law and from people who know what I do for a living and are like, here, you want some? You know, or my mom stitched and I have all this leftover thread. Would you like it? And of course, who says no? Nobody, and certainly not me. So anyway, that's my DMC collection and how I've organized it. I used to have it in the plastic craft boxes, and I had 3 or 4 of those going, and then I inherited this beautiful piece of sewing box. And finally, about a couple months ago, I actually transferred everything in here. I did have to create partitions, and I just used cardboard to do that, so that they would all stand up and not slide into one another. I mean, it's not like this gets moved around a lot, but I didn't want it. You know, you're looking for 937, and somehow or another it's way over with 106 or something like that. Anyway, so that's what I've done. Now, I'm not as organized with my overdyed flosses, and in fact, I did not even realize until I sat down to do this video how many cards of overdyed floss I have. I did do some quick organizing, and I put them on these binder rings. I would like to do some further organizing and maybe have less on a binder ring, because this is a lot, and I'm always faced with what do I do with those leftover pieces like this. And you can see on this particular card I attached it to the top hole, and then on some of them I've wrapped it around the card, but it's in the way regardless. Regardless, it's in the way. So I'm not sure there's any really good way to store leftovers that you could still use, you know, if you don't have your ort jar, or meaning leftover pieces of thread. I actually looked it up one time. It's kind of like leftover pieces of anything. Anyway, I did not bring my ort jar over to this new location. As you can see, we're not doing an ambiance video today. We're doing a glow. Anyhow, okay, so I did put these on rings. So hold on, I gotta open this up. And this is my Classic Colorworks collection. And as you can see, I have several in the white and I have several in the red, but they're mostly all the same color red because every time I go, I'm like, oh, I should get some red. Let's see if I can pick out a new color. And I don't. I pick out the same red I always pick out, Cupid. Anyhow, some of these have been purchased for specific projects, and some of them have been purchased simply because I like the color. And that's just the way I roll. I will pick out, you know, I'll just pick up a thread because I think, oh, that's such a pretty color. I've got to have that. And who knows if I'll ever use it. But I can tell you this much, when I go to do a project, I rarely have what I want. So anyway, these are the Classic Colorworks rings. I just have one ring for that one, but it's also a bigger ring. So, and here I actually put this on a little carabiner that, I don't know, came with a water bottle or something. Anyway, this is the Simply Shaker collection from, some of the Simply Shaker collection from Gentle Art, from the Gentle Art. Sometimes we just call it Gentle Arts, but the name of the company is actually the Gentle Art. Anyway, so these are some of them. And then some more of, and these are their, so this is, they have two lines. They have the Simply Shaker line, and they have the sampler threads. Now, something to note about over-dyed flosses. So these are hand dyed, and dyes are hand mixed. And have you ever made a recipe and one time it is absolutely fantastic, you can't believe how good it is, everything is just perfect, and the next time you make it, it's like, it's still good, you still like it, but man, it's not as good as it was that last time. And so I don't understand the dyeing process completely, but I do know that you can put the recipe together exactly the same way and come out with a slightly different version of what you maybe absolutely loved the first time. So I was noticing I like Huckleberry from the Gentle Art Sampler Threads collection. And I'm not sure that you'll be able to tell, but if you'll notice, this Huckleberry in the center, which is obviously a different dye lot, is slightly different than these two. And these two look pretty much the same on camera, but when I'm sitting here and looking at them in my home, they're slightly different from one another as well. So some people complain about consistency in dye lot. It's frustrating. I will totally give you that. It's totally frustrating, but to get angry with a dyer, please don't do that. Anyway, I also noticed that I have two different mulberry, and they're not quite the same. One is darker than the other, and I'm not sure that's translating on the camera very well, but this one is a little bit darker than this one. Will they still work? Probably. Will it look exactly like what you have on the picture on the front of your pattern? Maybe not. So those are just my thoughts on over-dyed threads. Now, why would a designer choose an over-dyed thread as opposed to a DMC? To give texture and interest. And I use it like if I'm doing a leaf, you know, if I look at a leaf, particularly a fall leaf, it's not solid yellow. I mean, you run across that occasionally. It's variations on a beautiful gold or a beautiful red. And so that's why I choose to use over-dyed flosses, to give interest and depth and texture to a piece. And also, if you're trying to create, like on my I don't have it in front of me, although you can see I'm still decorated for the 4th of July. On my Every Heart Beats True, I wanted to create the feeling of a flag on my buntings, or, you know, piece of fabric on my buntings. And so that's why, because, you know, as you look at a flag or a piece of fabric moving, and it may be red or blue, but it's not, you know, it's depending on how the light is hitting it, or how it might be in the shade, it's going to be a slightly darker, lighter red. So that's why designers might choose to use an overdyed floss. Sampler, people who design samplers do it to give the idea of age to their pieces. At least I think that's why they do it. Anyway, I also have a collection of Weeks Dye Works that I actually had to put on 2 different rings because I don't have rings big enough. But there they are. So I have those on rings. I had a question from someone who purchased a pattern this last week on, she had never used an overdyed floss, and she was asking about color fastness, you know, and do I wash my pieces afterwards? I typically do not wash my stitching when I'm finished. I try to keep it clean by you know, the way I hold it. If you are real concerned about it, you could have a piece of fabric or a tissue that you hold your piece of your work with, or if you use a stand, you're not actually having to hold the fabric that much, you know, hold your piece that much, and possibly soiling it with oils and stuff. I would not trust that an overdyed floss is color fast. Now, Gentle Arts, I was noticing on their cards, they say color fast. I've not tested it out to see exactly how color fast they are, but I wouldn't count on it. They may be more color fast than, say, Classic Colorworks is, and or Weeks Dye Works is, which I noticed neither of them claim to be color fast. Okay, so thoughts on overdyed flosses. That's what I'm giving you. And this Flosstube 15 is going really fast. Real quick before I'm out of time, I store my DMC on cards like this, little bobbin cards. I use, the only ones I've been able to find lately are these DMC ones. Cardboard's not as nice as it used to be 30 years ago. And I use this handy dandy little tool, and you stick the card, you push this little pin out, you stick your card in right there, line the hole up, push that in, and then you start it and just wind it like that. And it goes pretty quick. You need to have something to put this on. This is great on the plastic boxes I was telling you about. And I kept a couple plastic boxes just so I can wind thread. I also discovered another neat way to put your DMC flosses on to store. I'm not sure how you would store them, but or how I would store them, but another way to organize your flosses. So it's this, handy dandy little plastic thing, and you take, and what did I do? I had a whole stack. Oh, for heaven's sake. Oh, here we go. Okay, sorry. So you take this piece off first. And you stick it on this flat thing right here, like that. Okay, now you have your number. Then take the other, I don't know what you call those thingy. Find the loop. You don't want it crisscrossing. And so you've got your loop like this. You put part of one end in here like that. And sorry. Okay, let's try that again. Put one end like that, and then you're gonna bend this thing and put the rest of the thread around. It's kind of like a hanger. And then of course this isn't working because I'm doing it on camera. There we go. Anyway, there it is. And then you can just unwind it from this thing. Again, I don't know what you do with your leftover pieces. That's always a challenge. But they are called stitch bows for floss holders. They should certainly take a whole lot less time than winding a bobbin. Okay, I'm at 15 minutes. So I'm going to say au revoir for today. I hope this was helpful and you learned a little something about floss. I know probably could have talked a lot more, and I didn't even get into sulky threads. If you have any questions, ask them down below right here, and comments, anything, just ask or say or comment or whatever. Thank you everybody for tuning in again this week. I will see you next week, and happy stitching.